welcome back to my channel. It is me, your friendly neighborhood girl, back at it again with yet another video. Sorry I haven't been gone for a while, actually. Just because, like, I don't know. I've been, like, tired, depressed, blah, 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 so I haven't really felt like filming, and I don't really want to film when I'm tired because it's, like, very obvious that I'm tired, and I feel like that's a disservice to people who do, like, watch my videos. So as I was saying, I just haven't felt like filming, but I'm going to film today because I'm feeling alright, did my makeup, and yeah. So, today I want to talk about something a bit more serious, just because I feel like even though it has been said by many different multiracial / mixed people, it's still not being understood properly, or people aren't really, it's kind of going in one ear and out the other. So, I am a multiracial woman. I am African American, Caucasian, and Puerto Rican. My mother is black and Puerto Rican. My dad is black, white, and Native American. And I do use black and African American interchangeably. So if we were to break that down even further, Puerto Rican is just usually black, European, white, and Taino Indian, which they are the indigenous people of Puerto Rico. So after breaking that down, and I'll put a chart up here so that you guys can properly see what I'm talking about, because it's a bit difficult to picture it in your mind. I am, quote unquote, 3 black, 2 white, and 2 indigenous. Just because my dad is Native American. I have indigenous on my dad's side, and I have indigenous on my mom's side. I have black on my mom and my dad's side. I have white on my mom and my dad's side, but I have more black than anything. So, as much as that sounds weird, I actually did spend the time, like, writing it down, trying to figure it out. And I'm sure it would get even more complex if I were to go back to my dad's dad and dad's mom and my mom's dad and my mom's mom, but I'm not going to do all that. The moral of the story, I am 50% black, 25% European or white, and 25% indigenous. So, right there, just to let you know, I am more black than any other race. Usually, though, I prefer myself to be called afro-latina, because Puerto Rico is its own ethnicity, its own culture in general, so I typically don't just break it down to black, European, and Taino Indian. So, just to put that out there. With all of that being said, I am black enough. Period.
Period! 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 Period!
There's nothing I hate more than being told I am kinda black, black-ish. Any type of variation of that really upsets me because it devalues and minimizes my blackness. And I don't really think that's okay. And I'm gonna get into why I don't think that's okay a bit later. I'm just gonna, so the first thing I'm gonna be talking about is, being called white, saying I dress white, talk white, any type of variation of that. It's different for everyone, but those are the ones I get the most, especially from my black side of the family. Yes, my aunt and I are the lightest people when we go to family reunions. I'm talking about most everyone is anywhere from, I would say anywhere from the darker spectrum of light-skinned black to dark-skinned. And I'll put examples of what I mean on the screen so that you guys can get a feel of what majority of my dad's side of the family looks like. They're who I really spend time with because they're who I'm closest to. My Puerto Rican family lives in New York, in New Jersey. There's some in Oregon. There's some in Puerto Rico. There's some in Oklahoma. They live a little bit of everywhere, but my black family typically stays in the same region. So whenever I would go to family reunions, I would often get told that I dress white or I talk white. I also have a thing with texture, and I don't like my foods to touch, and I was also called white for that. And there are reasons why that is wrong to say. So talking white is just speaking in an articulate manner. At least that's what I've noticed whenever black people say that I talk white. And so that is negative to black people, because you're basically saying that black people as a whole don't speak that way. And there's nothing wrong with speaking articulately or speaking in African American vernacular English, but the general consensus by the normal everyday person is speaking properly is the good thing. Whereas using ebonics or AAVE, AAVE, is seen as negative or derogatory. So to say that I speak white is quite literally dehumanizing black people. So let's stop saying that people who speak properly, quote, I'm using that very loosely, talk white, because black folks are absolutely able to speak articulately, just like white folks are able to speak in a very quote-unquote ghetto manner. And that's a backhanded compliment as it is. I hope that was clear enough. And the next thing is dressing white. So it was very difficult for me to pinpoint what they meant by dressing white. I don't know if that's because I have a more like dark slash almost goth, I consider it more like afro-goth, afro-punk alternative, and I don't know if maybe that's what they meant by dressing white. I don't know if it meant that because I dressed nice I was dressing white, but regardless, neither of those styles belong to white people. They don't belong to white culture. So again, when you say speaking or dressing white, you are boxing yourself into an area where, you know, black people as a whole can't branch out and do those things without being judged. And I think that's very stupid. Like, we're human, we only live once. There should be no reason why dressing or talking a certain way should be limited to black or white people. Goth does not belong to white people. I said what I said. A moral of the story there is, you can say that I speak properly or speak a certain way without saying that I speak white, because that's not a thing. The next thing I'm going to talk about is feeling like an outsider or not really having a set group. So as a mixed person or a multiracial person or a racially ambiguous person, however you like to be defined, it's very difficult to find your group, especially whenever you're a bit lighter skinned, because, you know, the white people, they kind of hang together. And, you know, the black people, they kind of got their group. And the Latinas kind of got their group. And, you know, Asian people kind of got their group. But then, you know, as a mixed person, you're just kind of stuck in the middle and you're not sure which group to go to. So you kind of filter through groups. And while that's great, you meet a whole bunch of people, you make a bunch of friends, and you don't get into this kind of routine where you're not meeting new people. It is also frustrating, because these groups, especially in high school when, you know, kids are mean, are literally homes. They're like safe havens. And as a mixed person, at least for me, I'm not going to say I speak for all mixed people, I never really had that, and it kind of drove me crazy. When people would partner up in class, there were their cliques. And so I was just kind of left, and I remember so many times feeling really upset about that, to the point where I would just say, hey, can I work by myself? And not having a group really caused me to hang out with white people more. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, but I was always that filler friend, that person on the sidelines, because while I was white, in a sense, I wasn't really white enough. And so it was very difficult to find any, I've never found a group. And you'd think that being mixed, all the mixed kids would form their own group, because we all have this common foreignness about us. But no, again, most mixed people just kind of filter through different groups. And usually this is not the case, obviously, for every single situation, but darker mixed people hung with the black folks. And lighter mixed people, maybe mixed people who dealt with internalized racism, who didn't really want to be seen as black, because I did see that several times. They hung with the white people and they straightened their hair and they tried to look like white people, whereas darker mixed people kind of did the opposite. And again, that's not to say that every situation is going like this. It's kind of just what I've seen. And so again, that creates this sort of divide. A divide that doesn't really need to be there. I think that if all these people are going to have their groups, it would be really nice to just have a group for mixed people where we can come together and kind of discuss our struggles and how it feels. But again, I've never really seen that. I'm not saying it probably doesn't exist somewhere, but based on what I've seen, it doesn't happen. Another thing I'd like to say is I do realize that I have light skin privilege. I will never deny that. My life is nowhere near as difficult as a more visibly black person. I absolutely realize that very clearly. The closer you get to white, the better society perceives you. The closer you get to darkness or blackness, the worse society sees you. That's why there's black magic, dark magic. That's why darkness is scary. Black is typically associated with evil, and white is typically associated with good, light, purity, angels, heaven. So I will never deny my light skin privilege. I think it's a very important topic to talk about, because a lot of light skinned people don't think they have that privilege, and they absolutely do. The discussion for that definitely is important, but regardless of my light skin privilege, that doesn't make me any less black than anybody else. Being black is never a competition, and there should be no gatekeeping, because the fact of the matter is, to general society, to racist white folks, we are all black. We are all Negroes. It doesn't matter how dark you are. It doesn't matter how light you are. Even during slave days, we weren't seen as the same. Most of the time, lighter skinned slaves were doing housework, and darker skinned slaves were in the fields. I get that. I totally understand that. But the moral of the story is we were still seen as slaves. And that's kind of how this situation is. While they may view lighter skinned people a little bit better, we may get better treatments, we may not get as harsh punishments, we're still black. And so the gatekeeping and the saying you're not black enough is really just damaging to the black community as a whole. And we've already got forces on the outside messing with us, so it's just ridiculous that we're constantly having to fight about this. There's just, from what I've noticed, there's just so much animosity between dark and light-skinned people. And for no reason. Like, there's just this divide, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Because, like I said, we've got forces on the outside that are already fighting us. So fighting on the inside is just stupid. Like, you have lighter skin, I have darker skin, that's it. Let's end it there. Wow, I've kind of rambled a lot, but I hope most of that has been clear. Before I get off here, I'd like to tell a little story that will hopefully help you guys see my point a little bit better. So, my grandmother is white and Native American. Her hair is very quote-unquote Native American, but her skin is white as snow. So, she met my grandfather, and he saved her from an abusive relationship, I believe with a white man, if I'm remembering the story correctly. As soon as she got with him and married him and all that great stuff, her family disowned her. My grandfather took care of her in every single way possible. He was an amazing man, and I don't say that lightly. It didn't matter how great he was, because he was 100% African American, because he was black. They disowned her, and so she had kids. Obviously, she had my dad and my aunt, but and they're about my color, quite literally. They're both my color. We all get a little bit more tan in the summertime, but regardless, her family did not talk to either of them either. Still doesn't talk to my grandmother. Won't talk to any of us. Not my cousins, not me, not my grandmother, not my dad, not my aunt. No one. And it doesn't matter how light we look. It doesn't matter that my grandfather was very dark-skinned and we are very, very light-skinned. They still want nothing to do with us. And so that's what I mean whenever I say, regardless of how light we are or how dark we are, to racist white folks, to a lot of general society, we are all still Negroes. And that is just about all we may ever be to them. And so, yes, talking about privilege is very important, but it's also important to realize that this divide that we've created is just really stupid. And saying that someone is not black enough is really just more harmful than anything, because it forces them to go through this world not feeling like they fit in. And it's just not fair, because as black people, we already don't really have a home. Not as black people, I say as African American. Black is an umbrella term. There are black people all over the world, but as African Americans, we already don't really have much of a home, because a lot of us don't really know where we came from. And so we have to create this home within our community. And if we're constantly fighting about who's lighter, who's darker, we will never create that bond. And so I said all that to say that we are all black enough. Period. And I told that story just to say that, our light skin didn't save us from that hatred. So, I thank you guys for watching. I hope that everything was clear. It's a little bit hard to talk about whenever you're in the moment, because there's so much. Even though I had a whole outline prepared, I was still like, oh, let me talk about this. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want more videos like this, let me know. I also plan on doing a video about what it's like being Latina, of course. But I'll see you guys in my next video. And I love you guys, and I thank you so much for those who are staying and supporting me.